Hello, I am Jay, and this is Relax with Jay. I create calming videos that allow you to relax and or drift off to sleep. If you enjoy my videos and find them helpful, please hit the like button, subscribe, and click on the notification bell. I hope you enjoy this video and may it bring you restful sleep. Tonight, I'll be reading the third part of the second chapter of the book called Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle. If you enjoyed this chapter and would like me to read more, please let me know. He disappeared into his bedroom and returned in a few minutes in a character of an amicable and simple-minded, nonconformist clergyman. His broad black hat, his baggy trousers, his white tie, his sympathetic smile, and his general look of peering and benevolent curiosity was such as Mr. John Hare alone could have equaled. It was not merely that Holmes changed his costume, his expression, his manner, his very soul seemed to vary with every fresh part that he assumed. The stage lost a fine actor, even as science lost an acute reasoner when he became a specialist in crime. It was 6:15 when we left Baker Street, and it is still wanted 10 minutes to the hour when we found ourselves in Serpentine Avenue. It was already dusk, and the lamps were just being lighted as we paced up and down in front of Brownie Lodge, waiting for the coming of its occupants. The house was just as I had pictured it from Sherlock Holmes's succinct description, but the loyalty appeared to be less private than I had expected. On the contrary, for a small street in a quiet neighborhood, it was remarkably animated. There was a group of shabbily dressed men smoking and laughing in a corner, a scissors grounder with his wheel, 2 groundsmen who were flirting with a nurse girl, and several well-dressed women who were lounging up and down with cigars in their mouths. "You see," remarked Holmes, as we paced to and fro in front of the house, "this marriage rather simplifies matters. The photograph becomes a double-edged weapon now. The chances are that she would be as adverse to its being seen by Mr. Godfrey Norton as our client is to its coming to the eyes of his princess. Now, the question is, where are we to find the photograph? Where, indeed? It is most unlikely that she carries it about with her. It is cabinet size, too large for easy concealment about a woman's dress. She knows that the king is capable of having her waylaid and searched. 2 attempts of the sort have already been made. We may take it, then, she does not carry it about with her. Where then? Her banker or her lawyer? There is that double possibility, but I am inclined to think neither. Women are naturally secretive, and they like to do their own secreting. Why should she hand it over to anyone else? She could trust her own guardianship, but she could not tell what indirect or political influence might be brought to bear upon a businessman. Besides, remember that she had been resolved to use it within a few days. It must be where she can lay her hands upon it. It must be in her own house. But it has twice been burgled. Pshaw, they did not know how to look. But how will you look? I will not look. Well then, I will get her to show me. But she will refuse. She would not be able to, but I will hear the rumble of wheels. It is her carriage. Now carry out my orders to the letter." As he spoke, the gleam of the side light of a carriage came round the curve of the avenue. It was a smart little landau which rattled up to the door of Brownie Lodge. As it pulled up, one of the loafy men at the corner dashed afterwards to open the door in the hope of earning a copper, but was elbowed away by another loafer who had rushed up with the same intention. A fierce quarrel broke out, which was increased by two guardsmen who took sides with one of the lodgers and by the scissor grounder who were equally hot upon the other side. A blow was struck, and an instant the lady had stepped from her carriage was the center of a little knot of flushed and struggling men who struck savagely at each other with their fists and sticks. Holmes dashed into the crowd to protect the lady, but just as he reached her, he gave a cry and dropped to the ground, with the blood running fiercely down his face. At his fall, the guardsmen took to their heels in one direction, the lodgers in the other, while a number of better-dressed people who had watched the scuffle without taking part in it crowded in to help the lady and to attend to the injured men. Irene Adler, as I will still call her, had hurried up the steps, but she stood at the top with a superb figure outlined against the lights of the hall, looking back into the street. "Is the poor gentleman much hurt?" she asked. "He is dead," cried several voices. No, there's life in him," shouted another, "but he'll be gone before you get him to a hospital." "He's a brave fellow," said a woman. "They would have had the lady's purse and watch if he hadn't been for him. They were a gang, a rough one too. Ah, he's breathing now. He can't lie in the street. May we bring him in, ma'am?" "Surely, bring him into the sitting room. There is a comfortable sofa. This way, please." Slowly and sullenly, he was borne into Browning Lodge and laid out in the principal room, while I still observed the proceeding from my post by the window. The lamps had been lit, but the blinds had not been drawn, so I could be able to see Holmes as he lay upon the couch. I do not know whether he was seized with a compunction at that moment for the part he was playing, but I know that I never felt more heartily ashamed of myself in my life than when I saw the beautiful creature against whom I was conspiring, or the grace and the kindness with which she waited upon the injured men. And yet it would be the blackest treachery to Holmes to draw back now from the part which he had entrusted to me.